Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Walking Dead. So in this episode, obviously a big part of it is getting everyone together for a fight. First we have Rick and them obviously trying to get Gregory to sign off on Hilltop joining them, which obviously Gregory's like, no, I'm not doing that. That's stupid. Like, get the hell out of here before, the Saviors get any idea. It's like, I told you to kill the Saviors off at first, and you didn't do the job well enough, and now you kind of screwed us and yourself over, so I want to get as far away from you as possible, because if the Saviors know we're talking, they're going to screw us over. Which, to be fair, they did do the job. Once again, they did the job that you asked them to do. It's not their fault that they didn't know what they know now. It's like, oh, you only took out one group of them, like not realizing just how big and massive the Saviors actually are. I mean, to be fair, it wasn't even Hilltop's fault either, because even they thought like, oh, they thought this was kind of it. Especially, it makes you wonder, has Hilltop ever actually met Negan? Because it's not like they ever gave an actual description of what Negan looked like. So I guess it was a situation where it's like, oh, they just assumed, because they didn't even know that the Saviors were bigger than what they were, because that came up during that episode, like, what was that, 2 or 3 episodes back, that came up. So it's kind of like, I can only assume that was the case. They never knew what Negan looked like, and they thought that was the only group of Saviors. So they kind of went in blind as well, but that kind of screwed over Rick and his people. But they're begging him, but he's like, no. Basically, everyone here is a farmer. They wouldn't know how to fight, which is like, that doesn't matter, because it's like, you saw what Rick did to Alexandria. He was able to kind of convince everyone to fight. So, well, not just convince them to fight, but also taught them how to fight too. So he taught them how to fight, so obviously he could do the same thing to Hilltop. But it's like, they don't even have the chance, so they're like walking away. But then the people of the town are like, yo, Maggie, you're trying to take down the Saviors. So you think we can win? And Maggie's like, yeah, I think we can. So they're willing to fight, because it's like, no one wants to be under these circumstances, but it's like they find themselves under these circumstances, because it's always been the situation, like, because Alexandria has the fire and the will to fight. They just don't have the numbers, or even the weapons, because most of the weapons are gone, which I'm going to get to that even more, but that's probably going to be something I'm going to save to the end of the episode. But nevertheless, Jesus ends up bringing up, I was wondering, I was like, oh man, so how are they going to know about the kingdom? Because no one's brought up the kingdom. And then all of a sudden, Jesus is like, it's time for you to meet King Ezekiel. It's like, you know Ezekiel? Because I was wondering how that was going to happen. And so apparently, it seems like also signed away to find out Jesus' real name. He was like, Richard called him Paul. And it's like, yeah, nice to see you too, Richard. It's like, but we never really, because I was wondering, obviously we got an answer to that later. I was like, oh, so does that mean he was part of the kingdom originally and then went to Hilltop or something? It's like, no, because they opened up a trade route between Hilltop and the kingdom, and then, ended up finding out, it's like, oh, we're in the same circumstance. We're kind of under the thumb of the Saviors, which I really like that little comment he made to Richard. He's like, Richard, I've never seen you smile, but I think you will today. But nevertheless, the real good thing was, like, got that meeting, the meeting I wanted so badly. You had Ezekiel and Rick in a group meeting. I love that first reaction. Everyone was kind of back, like, far away. He's like, okay, this is King is. All right, I totally forgot about it. And they're like, Tiger. He's like, yeah, it's fine. I'm sure everyone has that reaction. Carol kind of had that same reaction, but nevertheless, it was just, Rick trying to plead his case, which even Ezekiel's kind of like, it's a hard situation to really decide what you're going to do in that, because he's like, oh, let's stand up and fight the Saviors. Richard's 100% behind it, because remember, what was it, like an episode or 2 back, Richard was trying to convince Morgan, and more in particular Carol, because Ezekiel is taking a liking to Carol. It's like, convince Ezekiel to fight, but Carol's in the state she's in right now. She doesn't want to fight. She wants a leading, wants you to fight. She just wants to be left alone. She doesn't want to get mixed up in anything. Just leave her alone because of everything that's just happened. She doesn't want to go back to killing. She doesn't want to go to fighting. She just wants to be left alone. Which I'm guessing that's the reason why Morgan didn't say anything. Because Carol isn't like that far away. She's decent. She's a decent way away from the kingdom. She's kind of outside of its borders. I mean, it's close enough that even Ezekiel can make it to. But the fact is, Morgan told them, he was like, oh yeah, Carol, she's gone. So she got patched up and she left just because of everything. He didn't tell them about the fact is where she was. Mainly because Morgan knows that she wants to be left alone. And then like he knows all that will probably do is them showing up will just push Carol to decide to go away further. At least this way, if they don't know where she is, at least he does. So even though she might not like it, at the very least, he will pop up, and even, Ezekiel. But it seems like Ezekiel doesn't pop up as often because he knows Carol doesn't really want him there. But it's like, this is all kind of something, Ezekiel's kind of got to think about getting all his people involved. What I really appreciate is like that story Rick told about the rock in the road. And it essentially, obviously the point of the story being like, hey, if you want something, like, you've got to kind of earn the things that you want. And it's like, under these circumstances, they got to fight if they want to get underneath the Savior's thumbs. It's like, I mean, you might fault Rick and his people for doing bad things. It's like, oh, Rick and them should have never started with the Saviors. The fact of the matter is, a situation of like, oh, we're just trying to fight to survive. It's kind of a bloody world, but it's like the way, even no matter how much you want to look at Rick's group and say like, oh, they've done some bad things, they've never gone to the extreme that the Saviors have, killing people outright. The only reason why they ever fight hard is like because they're fighting back against other people trying to mess with them, like the governor, for example. But this time it's like, this is the one the one time that they went out of their way and attacked someone and screwed them over. But that was kind of an interesting like point where Ezekiel was kind of like, I can't support you. I have to look out for my people. 100% understandable though. I mean, he brings up the example of like, he lost a lot of people because of a choice he made in the past. Well, not just people, he lost parents. There were some children, people have lost limbs, all because he made kind of a full-headed choice of being, foolhardy is the word I was trying to think of going after a group of undead. The way he talks about it, I mean, maybe he talked about it in the past and I'm blanking on, but the way he talks about it, it seems more like a situation where it's like, he could have avoided it, but it was probably kind of similar to the whole Alexandria situation at the beginning of last season, where it's like Rick was trying to gather up that horde and kind of move them away because it's like, oh, it'll eventually be a problem, so let's kind of take care of it now. So maybe he full-heartedly did the same, kind of a similar thing. Backfire, got a lot of people hurt and killed. So he's going to be reluctant to jump face first into a battle, especially after hearing what Morgan said. And Morgan said the right thing. He was like, yo, it's going to get bloody. It's not just going to be the Saviors that a lot of people die. Everyone all around is going to die. It's going to be a bloody war. And, Morgan is like, yo, we can find another way. We have to, just because that's Morgan's mentality. Because he already took that step forward, and he can't be that person anymore. Because, like, I mean, killing was all he had. It was all he had, and he can't go back to being kind of a wild beast like that anymore. He already crossed that as much as he could, saving Carol and killing someone. Like, he had no choice in that matter, but he can't keep down that path. So, but like I said, like, Ricky is right too. It's like, your circumstances with the Saviors will not stay. I mean, because truth be told, all it's going to take is one mishap, one misstep, and they will turn on you. It's like they did the whole situation with Hilltop just to make a point, just to remind them, oh, we're in charge. You come up late on an offering or not have enough, they will come to screw you over. So it's kind of like, because another thing to remember too, and they brought it up in this episode, is that only a few select people amongst Ezekiel's, council essentially know about what's going on. Everyone else in the kingdom has no idea about the whole Savior situation, which is why he was kind of pissed at Jesus for telling Alexandria, because it was like, that wasn't your business to tell, essentially. So I guess because more so than anything, Ezekiel thinks that maybe it could be something where another group could come in and try and take advantage of them. It's like, oh, we know your secret, we'll tell all your people. And because it's like, if whispering start happening, a lot of people would be terrified, and also he'd lose a little bit control because everyone would be like, wait, this happened and you didn't tell us, you made this deal without telling us. So it does make you wonder, what will Ezekiel do? Because obviously, like I said, he's backed away from it, but he's like, oh yeah, our deal with the Saviors is rocky, but it is stable. And it's like, for him, it's like, it's the option that will lead to the least amount of his people dying. It's like, the fact is, Ezekiel isn't a real king. Obviously, he knows nothing about being a king, nothing about being a leader. He's a dude that worked at a zoo, but he's still trying his best. The fact is that he was able to build all this shows you just how good he is, that even though he may not be a natural born leader, he found his way. I mean, at least Rick, you could argue, is like, well, he was a cop, so he has a good mind for looking after people and knowing exactly what to do. So, but it also ended with Daryl staying there, and Daryl's like, I'm not staying here, I'm going with you. He's like, no, because obviously the Saviors are going to be after you escaped, and they will kill you if they find you again, which is kind of what happens later on when Stephen Ogg. Nevertheless, I keep forgetting his character's name. Him and some boys came to Alexandria looking for Daryl. Luckily, didn't find him. Which, side note, there's that whole little conversation that Negan had over the radio. I love. It's like, Fat Joe is dead. Things will never be the same again. He put a smile on our face every day. You know, and it's like, it's just a shame that just things are just a little more dull without him around here. He added some spark to this place. We would crack some jokes about him and everything, but he was a good man. It's like, oh, now all we got left is Skinny Joe and Skinny Joey. And it's like, you know, with him, it's just, now that Fat Joey's gone, he's just Joey. Just, I love you, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I can't say that enough, dude. And I also love the fact is that Stephen Ogg's character was kind of like, yo, I'm going to tell you straight up, Rick, if you run into Daryl a few days, a few months, even 2 years from now, do note he's a dead man because there's no coming back from this. There's no limitations like, oh, after a while, Negan will be more forgiving. It's like, no, he's dead. And it's like, oh, if we find out that he's here, you might want to keep that axe ready because we're coming for you, essentially. I also love, like, that whole situation about them, like, getting all that explosives and stuff, in particular, like some RPGs and those dynamite sticks. I was just waiting for it. I was like, oh god, someone's about to explode, aren't they? Like, no, what's up with this? I got to know what's up with this. I was so scared that someone's going to explode, especially Rosita. But I did love Tara being like, oh yeah, you go ahead and handle that, and backing up. Rosita's like, you can try and back up. It doesn't change anything. That distance won't change the fact that you still would blow up even at that far away from this whole situation. Luckily, got all the dynamite, was able to, well, except for the one stick that Rosita left behind, which was a good idea because she's like, yeah, I knew I didn't like that. Because I keep forgetting, I was like, Rosita, why are you, I was like, oh, right. You are kind of the military person left. I mean, you're kind of the only military person left now that Abraham's gone. Would have been a perfect opportunity for Abraham, but nevertheless. Which, kind of jumping all around, there's that conversation between Sasha and Rosita. Like, Sasha's like, oh man, I knew Ezekiel would kind of say no, but it still pissed me off that he said no. And Rosita's like, why the hell are you talking to me like we're friends? We're not friends. We slept with the same guy and he's dead. That's all there is to it. Just because she's a little cold-hearted towards people. Just after everything that's happened, it's like, it seemed like her and Sasha did kind of bond a little bit, but more so than, like, I think more so than anything, it's like Rosita doesn't want to be pitied. But, you know, especially, you know, she, like I said, she's in a state of mind after everything that's happened, Olivia getting killed and Eugene being taken because she took her shot at Negan and missed. Still thinking about that because I literally turned to AMC like a little bit before the new episode, and I happened to, you know, it happened to be literally at that part of the previous episode where right after he had killed Spencer and right before she shot him. So it was like fresh in my mind. I was like, oh man, you took your shot and you missed. And not only did you miss, you missed in a spectacular way of just Lucille saved her. I'm surprised that hasn't bit them over in the ass even harder because, you know, he loves Lucille, like almost like she's an extension of him. But nevertheless, there's also that moment where Rick and Michonne used those cards and had that steel wire in between, because the whole thing was a setup, you know, just for, I guess, for anyone that might come closer to them, but more so than anything up an approaching horde. And they cut through so many of the walkers like that. It literally reminded me of some Dead Rising stuff, because obviously I have Dead Rising kind of on my head, on my mind at the time, but that looked like some Dead Rising level, like, killing some zombies type of thing. So that, I don't know, makes you wonder, were they inspired by that? I want to know if something like that happened in the comic book. That seemed like some television stuff. I'd be quite surprised if something like that happened in the comic books. But nevertheless, we also had that big situation where it's like, you know, when the Saviors came looking for Daryl, they found out it's like, oh, everything's gone. What happened to, like, our weapons? What happened to our food and supplies and stuff like that? It's like, well, Gabriel was supposed to, you know, supposed to switch patrol with him. I don't know why I said patrol with him, and he's gone. All the stuff is gone. One of our cars is gone. So piecing stuff together. Which at the beginning I was like, because I was halfway excited. I was like, oh man, because there's that person creeping outside, and it's like Gabriel's about to get it in. I was like, I was afraid. Like, I legitimately have to keep bringing it up. I wish, like, if you ever choose what it looks like when I'm watching The Walking Dead, I'm always looking away because this show has got me always on my on edge, because I don't know when someone's going to get killed, because there are some kills you see coming and there's others that just kind of take you by surprise. Best example is oh god, it's going to bother me, kind of the Olivia situation, but also Tara's girlfriend. I forgot her name now. She died like last season. I can't remember, and I feel so crappy about that. But that was kind of a situation because she got shot in the head with an arrow out of nowhere. But then, it just keeps me on edge, and it's just I have so much anxiety when watching the show. But then, like, everyone's kind of doubting him, especially Rosita, which you would think out of anyone, Rosita might be quick to give him a benefit of the doubt. It's like, because he's the one that kind of helped her through, like, her problems and everything after everything was said and done. He was like, no, we still need you. We can win this fight. I know it. But he took everything, and it's like, oh, Gabriel, don't tell me you're running. Do you have a plan or something? But, Rick was the first one to be like, nah, we can't give up hope. Gabriel isn't like this. He's changed. And then he ends up looking, and they see, like, a boat. And then him and Aaron look at each other like, how the hell did you know about that? The only two people that were out there were you and me. Obviously, we as the audience know there was someone else out there too. Which obviously they follow through and everything. And they end up coming across a group of people. Obviously, when they kind of go away from the boat and follow a different path, they end up coming across a group of people, which Rick immediately has a smile across his face because it's like, there's a large number of people. Now, I'm assuming this is him thinking like, oh, Gabriel got in contact with some other people, that basically he brought those foods and supplies and stuff like that as a way of kind of being on good terms with it. The person that was outside of their camp is probably someone that followed Rick and Aaron, obviously the person we saw at the end of the last episode. So Gabriel probably came in contact with them, and he was probably trying to decide on what to do. He knows that they need numbers, and he's like, hey, here's a great opportunity. And I'm thinking that's what Rick might be thinking too. Or maybe he does some, I don't know, because it's too coincidental that he just happens to come across a group of people. And the fact of the matter is, like, if Gabriel was going to cover up his tracks and make it seem like, I'm sure it's a situation where he didn't know if it was going to 100% work out. He probably wanted to keep tempers down low. Like, these people would be a lot less suspicious if he comes alone, and he doesn't know if a lot of people would back his idea, and he doesn't know if it'd pan out. So probably a situation where it's like he knew that if he went alone and everything, it'd be a little bit calmer, and if anything happened, it'd just be him that was lost, not a lot of people. So, I mean, that's where I'm going. Because I was with Rick, I was like, yes, Gabriel wasn't always the bravest in the past, but he's kind of shown himself time and time again, especially with the Maggie situation. Like, oh yeah, making it, showing the Negan, like, yep, Maggie died. And even Rick was like, that was good thinking. Like I said, the whole Rosita situation too. Also came up the whole situation between Aaron and his husband. He's like, oh, he figured it out quick. He's like, this is about the saviors, isn't it? He's like, just stay here. Rick is just going to get you hurt. I just want you to stay here. He's like, you want me to turn our back on Gabriel? He's one of us. It's just like, I just don't want, understandable. It's like, you don't want the person you love out there in danger, especially because I'm sure like everyone in town blames Rick. Like I said, the only person that was super vocal about it was Spencer. No one else has been that vocal about, granted, being vocal the way he is, vocal plus kind of getting it in his head that he can kind of run things and trying to strike a deal with Negan. If he had never opened his mouth about that situation, Negan wouldn't have killed him. But it's like at the same time, it's like Negan's a psychopath, so anything could set him off. It's kind of the real reason why Rick is like, yo, work with us, because any small thing will set the saviors off. They want an excuse just for you. They pretend like, oh, we don't want to kill anybody, but it's like you do the wrong thing and it will set them off some. But Aaron's just like, no, they need my help. I need to kind of see this through. I think because it's also, Aaron's kind of got that same mentality as a lot of people. Like, I'm alive. Glenn and Abraham, as well as a lot of people like Olivia, plus Eugene being taken. It's like a lot of people aren't here, and so I have to live on for their sake. Some extra final notes I want to bring up. The fact is, Morgan knows about the whole situation, and you see it in Morgan. Morgan's conflicted because he wants to find another way, but even he's kind of like, I don't know. I had to cross that line. Plus, they've lost a lot of people, because even Rosita's like, oh, so go ahead and say that you were right. He's like, no, I'm not going to say that. I'm not that type of person. Just kind of like, I'm sad that they're gone. They will be missed. There's also the thing about Benjamin telling Ezekiel. He was the one that was like, Ezekiel was eventually at the end said no, but Benjamin was the one that was like, you need to say yes, because we need to work together with this, because it's like, even with or without us, Alexandria is going to fight the saviors, and at least with us they have a better chance. And even if they did manage to win, that would mean that they fought alone and saved us. It's like, we should be fighting to help save ourselves too. It's like, we're all in this together. We want to break free of the savior's hold and everything. And even though he's so young and inexperienced, he still says something very insightful. And even Ezekiel's kind of like, because, Benjamin's dad was kind of one of the people he trusted the most. So it's kind of understandable. There's also another thing too, I just thought about, like, Tara still has not brought up the women she met a couple episodes back before she made her way back to Alexandria. Also, along those same lines, we still don't know what Keith's condition, but yeah, she still kept her promise about not telling them anything. I mean, granted, it'd still be an opportunity. That's more guns and more people they have to fight against the Saviors. So, but then again, Tara probably won't say anything because she'll probably, I mean, definitely because she, you know, Rosita asked her and she was like, nope, didn't find anything out there. So she'd probably be kind of suffer the ramifications, like, oh, you lied to us. So. And there was also the situation about Carol, too. I brought it up earlier. We saw her in an episode, but none of the information got to Carol being like, oh, yeah, your people are here because they don't know about her connection to Alexandria, so they wouldn't bring it up. But I'm curious to see what happens when it comes out. It's like, maybe Morgan will go to her next episode like, yeah, Rick and the elders came here. It's like, what? Yeah, they're trying to fight the Saviors. And it'll probably come down to a decision that, like, Morgan obviously feels the way he does and so everything for Carol. It will come down to them whether or not they participate in this. Obviously, he's like, yo, we need to kidnap Negan. Just kidnap Negan and now kind of, you know, that's the other way we can handle this. Or at least some other way. It's like kidnapping Negan won't do anything. Because that's the thing, like, these people are loyal to Negan, but even then it's like there's even people there amongst the Saviors, like just the regular people that aren't all for it. Even someone like Dwight, for example. Dwight's kind of a savior, but he's kind of got his reasons to fight back. Because I'm pretty sure it has to be him, the one who helped Daryl escape, not unless it was his wife, well, ex-wife, who's currently one of Negan's wife, so... All I gotta say is this is a very good episode and things are just only going to get better from here. I'm very interested to find out who this group of people are and is it the way I'm thinking it is and is it the way Rick is thinking that, you know, Gabriel's trying to work out a deal to get more numbers and more weapons for them to fight against the Saviors. I guess we'll just have to wait till the next episode to find out. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.